I get this question a lot. This is a topic of conversation. Where is the North Shore of Chicago? Because there are people who don't know exactly what the boundaries are of the North Shore of Chicago.
So the North Shore of Chicago is obviously north of Chicago, duh. But what does that really mean? North of, and how far west of the lake is the North Shore of Chicago? So the North Shore consists of Wilmette, Kenilworth, Glenview, Northfield, Winnetka, Glencoe, Deerfield, Highland Park, Highwood, which we're going to talk about, Lake Forest, Lake Bluff, and Bannockburn, which is a little hidden town that we'll also talk about. So I know about the North Shore because I have been a lifelong resident of the North Shore. Grew up there, went to school there, raised my kids there. I really know a lot about the North Shore of Chicago. So that's why I feel like I can give you this information. So the first controversy is that, well, why didn't you say Evanston is on the North Shore, Katie? Well, Evanston really truly is. It's north of Chicago and it's right on the lake. So yes, could you consider it to be the North Shore of Chicago? You could. However, Evanston is its own area in itself. It's basically a small Chicago. It's got high rises, it's got single family homes. It's really a city in itself. So while some people might say Evanston is on the North Shore of Chicago, I don't consider it to be, because if you're looking on the North Shore of Chicago, you aren't necessarily looking in Evanston. So for my video, we are not going to include Evanston in it. Okay, so how do you get to the North Shore if you are in Chicago? You start in Chicago and you go up 90, and when it hits 94, you take 94 up. Now you can also go around to 94. That takes you around the North Shore, and it meets up with 94 about in Deerfield. But for our conversation, you're going to take 90 to 94 up north, and that will take you directly through the suburbs. That's the Edens. That will take you directly through the North Shore of Chicago. So now another controversy when people talk about the North Shore of Chicago is that there are a couple suburbs that I did mention that are not actually on the water. So is that truly the North Shore of Chicago? Those would be Glenview, Northbrook, Deerfield, and Bannockburn. Those areas are not actually right on the water. However, when people are saying they're working or looking in the North Shore, they do typically include those suburbs as well. Glenview, Northbrook, and Deerfield are kind of like the poor cousins of the suburbs that are actually right on the water. And sometimes what will happen is somebody wants to talk about moving to the North Shore of Chicago. They hear about Winnetka. They hear about Wilmette. They hear about these amazing places that are right on the water, and then they see how expensive these homes are, and they're like, wow, well, we want to be north, however, we can't afford that. So they might go and then look at Glenview or Northbrook or Deerfield. So those are three options actually that are less than the homes that are actually right on the water. So if you want to move to the North Shore and you want to move on the water, it is going to be very expensive. And I don't mean necessarily right on Lake Michigan, because those homes you're talking 8-10 million plus. I'm talking about homes maybe that are a couple blocks from the water where you can walk to the beach. So Green Bay is kind of the dividing line between east and west. And if you are east of Green Bay Road, anywhere on the North Shore, all the way from Wilmette, all the way up to Lake Bluff, you really are going to be paying quite a bit of money for those homes, typically millions of dollars for those homes. You are just blocks from the lake, and that's why people pay up for that. So you just kind of want to keep in mind that that is also a dividing line. So when you start looking at the North Shore of Chicago, you want to take into consideration what their downtowns look like on the North Shore, because each one is different, and what the vibe and what the feel is for these towns. For example, Wilmette, considering it is just north of Evanston, still has kind of that urban vibe. If you want to be close to Evanston, you like the city feel, you like the restaurants of being close to the downtown of Chicago, Wilmette is kind of a nice combination of being in the suburbs, but also being able to get access to those restaurants and the cultural activities that you might be interested in. In addition, Wilmette has the ability to dock your boats. There is a harbor there where you can actually go sailing. It can be kind of a big boating community. Now, Winnetka is just north of Wilmette, and Winnetka is super expensive. When you're looking at Winnetka, you're looking at really high property taxes as well. I will tell you that there is almost nothing in Winnetka that's in a bad location. Pretty much every home in Winnetka is in a good location. You do have some locations in Wilmette, which are a little further west, and they kind of butt right up to 94. Winnetka doesn't really have that. It's just a little bit different. And so any home in Winnetka is typically going to be in a very good location. If you're kind of thinking, well, you know what, we like both of those areas, they're right on the water, maybe we want a little less expensive, maybe we want a little bit more of a hometown feel, then you might be looking at Glencoe. Glencoe is just further up north, and they have a cute little downtown. And some of the homes there are not quite as expensive as the Winnetka homes, but they've got some nice big lots there as well. Now I'm going to move over to talk to you about Northfield. While Northfield, I didn't really include as not being right on the lakefront, Northfield and Winnetka share the same zip code. It's a totally different type of community though. Northfield has larger lots, very, very large lots. Everybody in Northfield pretty much goes to the same grade school, junior high, and then they're all going to the high school together. It is a very tight community. However, they don't really have a downtown in Northfield. They've gotten better over the years, but it's not really a place where people are going to go and hang out as opposed to like Wilmette or Winnetka or some of these other suburbs. So Northfield, you have to be okay having larger lots a little bit further away from each other. I will tell you though, Northfield is very, very desirable. A lot of people love that feel because the community is very tight. They know each other very well because their kids are really going to school together through all those years. Now that does go to New Trier schools, even though it's Northfield. Now, if we go a little further west, you're going to be in Glenview and Northbrook. And Glenview and Northbrook, I would consider to be very similar types of locations. Glenview is going to have homes that are lower priced and higher priced. And Glenview is also a larger mass of land. Glenview is a little unique because it's so big. Most of the subdivisions and the areas within Glenview are divided by busy streets. So while you do have a sense of community in, let's say, the Glen or Glen Oak Acres, or even in the circles, very tight, outside of that community, it's going to be a little bit different because the way you get to these other subdivisions or communities is over large streets, such as Lake, which is a really big, busy street, and that does divide the town. Also, there is a very far west part of Glenview as well, which really, when you're saying the North Shore, yes, Glenview is the North Shore, but when you go really far west, you're going to run into Arlington Heights and Mount Prospect. So it is a different feel. With that being said, there is a possibility of being able to get homes that are not as expensive in West Glenview as opposed to East Glenview, and then of course Winnetka and Wilmette. Northbrook is kind of similar to Glenview. However, Northbrook does not have some of the really large lots that Glenview has unless you're in East Northbrook. So Northbrook does have a wide variety of homes as well, colonials, splits, ranches, but the size of the lots are a little bit smaller in Northbrook. Now, all of the locations that I've just talked about to this point are all in Cook County. Once you go north of Lake Hook Road, you are going to be in Lake County. Now, the difference between Lake County and Cook County is, if you can believe it, the taxes are going to be higher in Lake County. So while Deerfield is a very, very comparable community to Northbrook, it actually can cost more in taxes than some of the homes in Northbrook. So if you're really looking for a great house and you don't necessarily care about the taxes, Deerfield might be your place. If you're looking for lower taxes and the home might not be as important, then Northbrook might be a better fit. Again, Deerfield has some great options as well. It's just not right on the water either. Now, Highland Park is also north of Lake Cook Road, which means that it's in Lake County and the taxes can be pretty high there. Highland Park is really neat. It's got some homes that are kind of mid-century modern, a little bit, that can splits and the ranches that they have, but then they've also got some amazing homes on the water too. And Highland Park has one of the best downtown communities, one of the best locations for shopping. It's just a very cute downtown area. And it's also very close to the water. So Highland Park is a great option if you're looking for something that's maybe a little more unique, a little more different, maybe a little more modern or contemporary. Now, I originally said Highwood. Highwood is a very unique town because they do have a lot of lower priced homes there, and Fort Sheridan's there as well, which is a former military base that has been turned into housing for people. It's a really neat place as well. So some of the homes that are in Highwood though don't really appeal to people who are looking in, let's say, Highland Park or in Lake Forest. However, it is sort of stuck in there. What Highwood is really, really known for is their amazing restaurants. Highwood has some fantastic restaurants that are in the area. I love them. I think they're great. It's a really cute area too as well. It's just that when you say North Shore, people don't necessarily view Highwood as the North Shore. Now that also goes into Bannockburn. Bannockburn is kind of a really small town that has very, very large lots, 5 acres and up in the area. So there really aren't very many homes that are in Bannockburn that go on the market. However, that community has homes that are much bigger. Now, as you're going north, you're going to hit Lake Forest and Lake Bluff, which are kind of like sister towns as well. Lake Forest is where some of the most amazing homes are, on big pieces of land close to the lake. Just absolutely gorgeous. Huge mature trees, large lots. Driving through Lake Forest, you feel like, wow, this is amazing. So that's really East Lake Forest. Now, there's a lot of opportunities for people in West Lake Forest as well to have bigger lots. It's just, if you're from Lake Forest, you might might say, oh, I'm in East Lake Forest versus West Lake Forest. Not a big deal at all because there are amazing homes in both locations. But if you really want East Lake Forest, you really want East Lake Forest. And Lake Bluff, super cute, more quaint. There is a lot more opportunity to get on the water, or at least close to the water in Lake Bluff than there is in Lake Forest. It's really far north though. It's pretty far north from the city. So if you're thinking you want to be in Lake Bluff and commute to the city, that's pretty much of a haul. I will tell you, years ago before COVID, Lake Bluff and Lake Forest, their market was dead, completely dead. You would see homes that were on the market for like years, literally years. Then COVID hit and everybody's like, I got to get out of the city and I can remote work. And Lake Forest went crazy. The homes there sold immediately. It was amazing how fast those homes sold, and it has kept up as well. With remote work, Lake Forest and Lake Bluff have become premier destinations for people, especially as they're moving out of the city of Chicago. The North Shore of Chicago is really a cool, unique place to be. There are a lot of opportunities, lower price point and definitely higher price point. Some of the record-setting sales have come from the North Shore of Chicago. In addition, it's been the location for filming of many, many movies, specifically John Hughes, because John Hughes was a resident of the North Shore. So talking about Ferris Bueller's Day Off, 16 Candles, and Home Alone were all filmed on the North Shore of Chicago. Some of the great things about the North Shore is the location and proximity to downtown, because you can get right on the Edens and go down 94 and you can be into the city. From Northbrook, typically if you were driving down and there was no traffic, remember no traffic, you could make it downtown in 25 to 30 minutes, which is a really nice drive. Now there have been times when it would take, hours, an hour and a half to 2 hours to get downtown on 94. Another great thing about the North Shore is there is train access in pretty much all of these communities. You're either going to go into Union Station or you're going to go into Northwestern Station. The towns that are further west are going to take you into Union, and then the ones that are on the lake are going to take you right into Northwestern Station downtown. Another great thing is Ravinia. Ravinia Festival happens every year. Ravinia Festival is actually in Highland Park, and it is amazing. It's great. They have wonderful bands and singers that come out. It's an outdoor concert facility. You can actually take the train and there is a stop at Ravinia. Something fun that people like to do. We also have the Botanic Gardens out on the North Shore as well, which is a beautiful location that you can go and walk around and just enjoy the good weather on the North Shore when we do have it. Maybe not the middle of winter, but when it's beautiful out, when the weather is great, that's a great place to go. So I hope that I've given you some good information about the North Shore of Chicago. We are experts on the North Shore. We know exactly how to get these homes sold. We know how to find you a home that you're looking for, and we know how to advise you. So if you say, hey, we're looking for a home on the North Shore, but we're not sure where to start, this is the place, this video, and then you can go ahead and reach out. My text is below. Feel free to shoot me a text, give me a call, send me an email, whatever you need. More than happy to help you. In addition, we have our website down below that you can go ahead and link to and do your own no obligation search. I have a link there just for North Shore homes, and you can see all the homes that are actually on the North Shore of Chicago that are for sale or have been sold. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. I don't want you to miss anything that's coming out. Thanks for watching. Reach out anytime, and if you know, you know.